Hello and welcome to today's story behind the song. Today's song is Colourblind, and it's one of the songs I'm most proud of from that particular era of Skin. It's a song that I really wanted to be a single, but the record company didn't see it that way. It's a song that's very influenced by the Beatles and by Queen. You know, there was a period of time where I learned all the songs by both of these bands, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that their influences didn't influence the writing of this song. It's based around a little riff, which is, you know, it's kind of like a blues scale, but it's got an F sharp in there as well, in A, so you get this vibe. So you can hear all the Beatles influences in there, plus a little bit of George Michael faith in there as well. So that was kind of the musical foundation of the song. Lyrically, it was about racism, which is, you know, probably obvious. You know, in my early 20s, I was slightly mystified by the entire concept of racism in terms of why would you judge someone purely because of their skin color or where they came from. You know, as years have gone on and the more I've learned about human beings, I realize that hatred that they have towards others is really just a manifestation of the hatred that they have towards themselves. But that wasn't completely clear to me when I was younger. That's just something that I've learned through the years. You know, so that's the musical foundation of the song. In terms of the history of it, you know, as I said previously, the album was mostly recorded in Los Angeles, but we recorded 3 extra songs in London, and those 3 songs were Tower of Strength, Money, and Colourblind. So you can see how the inclusion of those 3 songs added a huge amount of substance to the finished record. So I was very happy that we managed to go in and record another 3 songs. You know, so the story behind the song isn't that big, but what I wanted to talk about separately was ownership of recordings. Now, you know, a lot of people think that the second they get a record deal, that's going to be, you know, all of their dreams have come true and their prayers have been answered. You know, but something that I've learned through the years is once you hand over your recordings to a record label, they're gone. They're no longer yours. You know, and as you've probably you can tell by all of these little talks, is my commitment to Skin was far greater than anyone else's within the band, because I wrote all of the songs more or less. You know, so even though there was 11 songs on the album, there was another 10 songs on the bonus CD. But I must have written about 50 songs for that album. You know, all finished, all demoed, all lyrics written. You know, so the output of work that I put into it was greater than the others. But as a result of that, I've handed over more of my work to separate entities, meaning publishing companies and record companies, than anyone else. You know, so it's my life's work is within these songs and within the band. You know, and getting any kind of information from these record companies is an absolute nightmare. You know, in 2009, when we reformed to play Download, I contacted Parlophone Records to see if they wanted to re-release the album, and they gave me a very flat no. I then asked if I could license it from them. Once again, no. But a year later, I found out that they licensed it to another label called Rock Candy, who now own the record, or licensed the record. You know, they re-released it, all the credits were wrong, they entered information to collecting agencies wrong, songwriting credits were incorrect. You know, so it was a lesson to me that never to hand over my work without very good compensation, or at least some level of control. So from that moment on, I always financed my own recordings. So the Skin albums were financed by me, the Red, White and Blues albums was financed by me, so that I have some form of control over it, and I don't find that it's been licensed to something that I don't ever want to have any connection to. You know, so my advice to musicians is, whoever pays for a recording owns the recording. So if you're in a band and say the bass player is paying for the demos or paying for the recordings, he owns them. You know, so make sure that when you're doing things that you have an equal split, and it has to be a financial split, otherwise you don't have any say in it. These are lessons I learned the hard way, but just be wary of who you give your work to, and the same with publishing as well. You know, I found out that you know, the ownership of all of my songs returned to me, you know, like nearly 10 years ago. But when I go on to PRS websites and things like that, I see that Warner Chappell are still collecting royalties for my songs, even though they no longer have any ownership to them. So this is something that you have to constantly keep on top